beasts, aren't they? Chuffed to bits. The smallest little thornback. I'll just concentrate on not losing the rod over the side. And his eyes. He's got amazing eyes. Doggy in the boat. Covered in mullet. There's a bit of weight to that, you know. And that's what we want, don't we? We don't want the same all the time. We want something different, a good old show. Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm in the workshop. It's November, it's cold outside. But I can't put the log burner on because it always makes a bit of smoke initially on lighting, then blows clear, you know, once it's up to temperature. Mrs W's got her washing out and I'll get shot. If I light the log burner now, she'll go nuts. So what am I up to? I'm making rigs. I'm making rigs, tinkering around, beavering away, doing bits and pieces in the workshop. But I put up on the community channel a request. You know, what rigs would people like to see? It's always better to give you something that you would like to see rather than just something that I choose. And then I completely bucked the trend because nobody suggested this, but I'm going to do it. I'm living dangerously. I'm going to do a pulley rig, and I'll explain my thinking. I'm going to do a pulley rig made from Trident Tackle. All the hoo-ha about the initial release of Trident Tackle, and way back in the day when it was first released, I gave my initial thoughts, but then I've had a chance to use it. And whereas some of it may not be my favourite bits of kit, there are other aspects of it that really are. And because it's ting cod season, by ting I mean whiting. Whiting are starting to move in around my local area. I've started to catch a few. The smaller ones, but the bigger ones tend to follow. November, December, it's ting season. Ting season with the occasional unicorn that is a codlin. A good rig for both of these is the pulley rig. Especially if you're over medium-ish ground that isn't quite clean, some weed, chance of maybe a snag, and you're using grip leads. I'll stop jibber-jabbering and get on and make one. So what am I going to use? Well, the Trident stuff consists of a rotor bait, an aero pulley, and on this rig I'll be using 2 Termalinks. Now the benefit to all those 3 pieces of components, or 4 if you count 2 Termalinks, is they're very competitively priced. Very, very competitively priced. So this rig isn't an expensive rig because the Trident components are cheap. When I say cheap, that sort of undersells them a little bit. They're not cheap as in cheap made, they're just low cost. They've kept the price down. So if you're medium ground and got a chance of possibly losing a rig, you're not going to cry so hard if you lose a few little pieces of Trident gear. And then for the bulk of it, I'm going to use £70 ASSO for the main line. I tend to use £70 or £100 for my rig bodies, but in this case I'm going 70. And for the discrimination, line discrimination, so the piece that might snap off first, I'm going £40 Amnesia. And this is a new spool that I've just ordered, 100 metres on this spool. I think the previous spool I had 50 metres on it, but I was chuffed when this arrived because I didn't really read the online jargon that well. And it was £40, it was clear, but I got a 100 metre spool when I thought I was getting a 50. So that made it really cost effective. And how do we start? It is very simple. So I'm going to make a 2.5 foot pulley rig. So the first thing to do is to measure, and I've got some markings on the bench, so excuse me, I know it's rude to turn my back. So that is 30 inches. It's a 30-inch length of rig body. And I like to do these things so it helps, which is, you know, 5 foot wingspan, 2.5 foot half of it. It's an easy way of remembering it. And where are we going to go with this first? So I like to work from one end, working my way through. And I'm just going to tie on the Termalink. And I'm going to use the knot that most people know as the Sandman knot. Might as well give the guy credit where credit's due. He's the one that seems to have put it out there and made it famous. I think it's a grinner knot. I'm not 100% sure. Never am sure. No expert, just doing my thing. Nice tag end, 3 turns, 3, in through the loop that you've made, and then on the twisty side, the bit that you've done all the turns, do another 3 turns. You could try and do it on the one line side. That's not how it works. And then ease it down, make sure you don't put any heat into the line, a little bit of lubrication, a little bit of wiggling, and trim the tag end. So we've now just got our rig body with a Thermalink attached to one end. Next piece to put on, I'm not putting any beads on this one. I'm going to keep this one right down to the absolute minimum. I want this to be the simplest rig it can be. If you did want to try and protect that knot and the operation, you could now put a bead on. Okay, I'm not going to, deliberately. I want to see how this performs without it. So the aero pulley, feed in through the bottom, in through the tiny hole, and out through the bottom. The lines do cross over. It doesn't look correct to start with, or counterintuitive, but it basically goes in, through, back, through, and out. And what it does is it pushes the line out either side. So if I pull that all the way up to the end, it's got a Thermalink and a roto bait. And just so we don't forget, I'm now going to put a 100-pound power swivel on the top of that roto bait. There's a very specific reason for that. So that is now just all hanging off of a swivel, and that is free to run. That is so that it can clip onto my main line. So now all we have to do is finish this end with a Thermalink. Thermalinks, they are my favourite Trident Tackle component at the moment. I use them as my termination from my main line coming down from the rod. I use them on most of my rigs in one way, shape or another. I just like them. It's not a sales pitch, I'm not sponsored, buy these things myself. So I'm just going to tie another Thermalink on. Give myself a nice working tag end. 2, 3. Pass the line through, and on the twisty side, pass through 3 times, 2, 3. Always wet your knots and always make sure they seat correctly when you pull them down. Should look like a little beehive with the tag end coming out the same way that the main line goes through. And trim off your tag end. So very, very simply now, move that right into the middle. We've got 70-pound rig body, Thermalink, aero pulley, Thermalink. That is it. And if you was to hold the top of the aero pulley, you can pull one down and one up, or the other one down all the way up, or bring them down to meet each other. That's the body. That is as simple as it is. Doesn't get any simpler. And then onto one of those Thermalinks we attach the roto bait. So we've got the roto bait. It's worth mentioning that if you was to want to attach the weight to use this now, rather than just making the rig, you would have to attach the weight first, seat it, and then clip on. Because you can't add or remove a weight once it's clipped on. You've got one clip, add or remove a weight, clip back on. And there we have it. The rig body's complete. Thermalink, aero pulley with a swivel. I'm using the Gemini power swivel. Contaminated the Trident rig. Another Thermalink and a roto bait. All in all, let's put it on the measure. It's ended up, that body is now 2 foot long. 2 foot long, and that's it. So to make it easier on myself, I'm going to hang this up. Hang it up so it's out of my way, and then I can work on a hook snoot. A hook snoot. So for the hook snoot, I'm going to use 40 pound amnesia. I'm not going to make a pennel rig for this one. I'm going to use a single hook. And we're just going to, so I don't get a whole snake's wedding of line everywhere. It's still got the elastic band on it. I'm going to pull out 30 inches of amnesia. So I've got 30 inches of amnesia, and I've got a very simple Kamasan 3/0 hook. Can tie it on using the same knot. I'm not going to change anything on this. It's the same all the way through. So 3 turns through the loop at the start above the eye of the hook, and then another 3 turns around the double twisted part. That part might escape some people. Draw it down, wet your knot, and seat it, and get rid of the tag end. So now I've got a 3/0 Kamasan hook on a hook snoot. Now we could, in theory, replace one of those termalinks with a swivel and tie direct to the swivel. That would make for a very streamlined rig. But anyone that's been ting fishing know that when they move in quick, and all the time your rod's out dealing with a chewed up bait, you're not fishing. So you can make a few of these, 1 rig body, 4 hook snoods, have them baited up in your bucket, ready to go. And if you put a swivel on the end of there, you can just clip on and clip off. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. Again, I'm not changing any knots. 3 turns, 2, 3, through the hole that we made, through the eye, through the double twisted bit, 2, 3, cinch that down, wet your knot. Trim the tag end, and we should be pretty much there. You've got a termalink with a rotor bait on one end and a termalink with nothing on it. We clip the hook snood on, and that is the rig and the hook snood complete. All we now need to do is attach a weight and hook it up. For the benefit of this rig, I'm using all colour coordinated. It's got little blue tabs on this one as well. So you have to unclip the roto bait. Pull the section down, put the hook on. I'm using a grip lead because most of the times when I'm fishing for this in this kind of ground, I am using a grip lead. And then you attach the termalink onto the roto bait. It's worth looking at the type of weight that I've chose. Before I stick that in my eye, I'm going to disconnect that hook snood. That's the beauty of it, removable hook snood. It's worth looking at the kind of weight that I've chosen. So it's got a long taper and a decent little piece of shaft, and then the roto bait. So when it goes into the water, that paddle has got every opportunity to operate and release the hook. If you use different designs, or ones that have got an impact shield built in, or have got a very short stem, or are very fat bodied before the paddle, as that hits the water, if the water hasn't got a chance to flow around the weight and hit the paddle, don't be surprised if it comes back still hooked up. It's not the roto bait's fault, it's the component that's been matched to. I did try and force the issue. I have tried these in different variations, and I can actually put a weight on here that sometimes stops that from operating. And it's purely down to the shape of the weight. You want a nice taper to give the water every chance to operate that paddle. Very important that could be easily missed. So that's it complete. All that's left to do is to bait up your hook, clip the snood onto the Termalink, bring the hook down to meet the roto bait, locate and pull the paddle down. That is it. And if we were, because it's always easier when it's clipped up on the rod or clipped up on a tripod, but that is it. Now that, I wouldn't say that's overly short. That for me is about perfect for whiting. You will pick up rays and other species, bass definitely. But yeah, when you watch it and it detaches, the hook snood comes free, that would be the angle to the shore. So this would be touching the bottom or waving about just off bottom. And this is the important aspect of this rig, especially if you're fishing anywhere near weed. The fish takes the hook, and as you're playing the fish, the weight is lifted up out of the way. This line, this hand, goes off to the rod tip. The fish is obviously doing its best not to be caught, and as you're bringing it back, this weight with its grip leads, which should have tripped, i.e. they should be bent backwards, not forwards, it lifts it up out of the snags. Lifts it up out of the snags, but you've still got that free running. It's a cracking rig. It's a cracking little rig with nice components, and I think if I was to give my personal view to Trident components in this configuration, they work very well. Very, very well. I just clipped it up one more time so I can show you it in its total. For this one I'm using a grip lead, a roto bait, a Kamasan 3.0 hook, a Termalink. I'm using Gemini power swivels, another Termalink, an aero pulley, and all topped off at the top with another power swivel. I would, from my main line, come down with a Termalink, clip that on, and that is a good rig. Good winter fishing rig, all round species, particularly good for whiting, pouting, bass, work really well surf fishing if you have a windy day and you're casting out into the third breaker. But yeah, definitely a whiting rig, and you can have multiple hook snoods, bait them up, have them prepped, good to go. The Trident Pulley Rig. What's not to like? It's amazing. Love it. So I hope that rig is of some use to you. By all means, order the components online. You can only order the components online. Make the rig, try the rig, or leave comments below. Absolutely love all the rig videos we do. Some of the feedback and the comments we get not only helps myself, helps others. We can share problems, resolve issues. The comments section is a powerful tool. If you've watched the video, have a scroll through the comments, add your own, let me know what you've caught on one of these pulley rigs, if you've had any issues, what you specifically like, and we'll share it. We'll share it across the community. We can all live and learn. Every day's a school day. And if there's anything significant that I've made wrong with this, I'm guessing the addition of beads might be mentioned. But hey, let's discuss it. Are they really necessary? If you use this rig, do you really need the beads? I don't know. Let's talk about it. But other than that, I hope this has been helpful. Tight lines and happy fishing. I hope to spend some time with you again sometime soon. But from me, for now, from the workshop, goodbye.